Alrighty, welcome back in. Today we have a very special interview on the dock for episode 4 of the Embrace the Grind podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously it's not under the Embrace the Grind, but still you can go down below and the podcast link will be there if you'd rather listen to the audio. So like I said, very special guest. Today we have Nick Ercolano, the chief of the big dogs, the big dog, I guess you could say. I think I called Animal that though, so I might have lied to him maybe.
Physically, yeah, he takes the title.
But we're just going to go over really about your business, and I'll have you intro all of that. Just interviewing you, kind of just behind the scenes look at, I guess the title of this is Building a Business from Your Bedroom. So how you built a business from your bedroom. So take it away, introduce yourself, where you went to school, your business, all that stuff.
Yeah. So my name is Nick Ercolano. Thank you for having me. I started a YouTube channel a long time ago, and I have since built it into, I guess, a business. And it did, in fact, start in my bedroom. So we are definitely taking that to heart. So I started it when I was maybe 21 or 22, and I never really looked at it as like a business. It was, as anyone would, you'd start an Instagram account or a Twitter account or whatever. That was just what it was. I was young. I was probably maybe still in the back end of college, or I might have just graduated undergrad from Marist College. I did a degree in business there, international business from my undergrad. And I got out of school and I started, kind of getting in the headspace that most kids do when they get out of school. They realize that, okay, I can't just, if I want to be happy, if I want to be passionate about something, I can't just settle for the path that's, most of us, a lot of people within our space, like yourself and your team around there, my team have come and gone through a lot of the same paths, I want to say, like not spoon-fed most of the life, but the paths have been pretty laid out for you. And we've been very fortunate that we've had a lot of choices that are difficult for a lot of people kind of given to us. So I got to a point where I was like, yeah, I'm really passionate about like this fantasy football thing. And I had thought about starting to create some content around it because I genuinely was like, I could help people out with this. I feel like I'm pretty good. So I started blogging. And before I knew it, there was like a little bit of organic traction on the blogging. I started dipping my feet into like Google Analytics. I had no idea what I was doing at the time. You're not born with this kind of technical skill set, So I kept doing it, and I was just like, I'd rather go on camera. I feel way more comfortable doing videos and getting my point across because I think like context behind everything is super, super important in real life as well as conveying your message via video or whatever it is, right? So I just felt more comfortable interacting with an audience when I was able to actually talk to them and they were able to see me. So I started doing YouTube videos and they started getting a little bit of organic traffic on their own. And I didn't take it seriously for a while. I did, a couple videos the first summer and then a handful more the next summer. And by that time we had like 600 or 700 subscribers. And I was like, why the fuck do we have 700 subscribers when I put out like 5 videos throughout the whole year? So I was like, if I double down on this, and if I start taking this super seriously, maybe I can turn this into a business. Because at this time, I had graduated from Marist, my undergrad business degree. I planned on going to grad school, but I realized that like I needed to take my MBA, or I needed to take the GMAT, and I wasn't prepared for that. So I was like, okay, I'll push that off until next semester, and I will start getting some like real actual work experience in a business setting or, any kind of like entry level setting. So I ended up taking an entry level job at some business and left that within the 8 months to take another one. And I ended up doing grad school at Binghamton for marketing analytics. And I had been doing the YouTube stuff at a much less serious degree than I am right now, but that had always been on the side. And I'd always wanted a reason to kind of jump off and do something on my own. And this was a passion that I thought long-term I could turn into a full-time thing. But at the time I was making no money doing it, but I always felt like I was savvy enough that if I put my full energy and passion behind it, like I'd figure it out along the way. So one of the last jobs that I had was at a marketing agency. So it was probably my 3rd full-time job. I was at a marketing agency and I jumped to another one. So I had like 4 or 5 full-time jobs by the time I was, how old are you, Lucas?
20.
You're 20. Okay. So by the time I was out of college, obviously, but by the time I was maybe 22 or 23, I had like 5 or 6 full-time jobs. Just nothing really suited me well. Right. And I loved working at the marketing agencies. Those were like the funnest things for me in terms of like an actual corporate job, because you got to be a little bit creative and you got to actually think outside the box a little bit. And the last job I was at, I was finally learning a skill where I was like, I could probably flip this into money if I did it on my own, right? It was doing the social media marketing. So those sponsored posts that you see on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, I would make those for some of the companies that we worked with. And I was like, this was before those things were really popular. Like not a lot of companies were running Instagram ads. So I was like, I learned a skill that not a lot of places know how to do. Let me branch off. Let me leave my corporate job so that I could do this on the side and actually make money from it while pursuing content as like the long-term gain. So I wasn't making money when I decided to actually leave my job yet from fantasy stuff. That only came after I opened up a lot more like time and flexibility within my schedule to actually put focus towards it, and then kind of unrolled it into what it is now. And now, we're just trying to put out content as often as we can, as high quality as we can, and is fortunately turned into a business stemming from a passion stemming from my fucking mom's bedroom.
For sure. Yeah, that was a big breakdown of all that. So we can try to dissect that the best we possibly can.
Yeah,
So
sorry if that was super
no, it's all
long-winded. Feel free
good.
to edit any of that out.
No, it was good. It was definitely a good description, I think. So prior to, so you made the YouTube channel, obviously, or else you wouldn't be where you're at today. But before that was kind of like you were set on, say, like a marketing agency or like set on a marketing job. Was that kind of like your vision, you could say, for how, I don't want to say how you live the rest of your life, but where you thought you'd be working for the rest of your life, I guess?
Honestly, no. I don't even think I like knew marketing or liked marketing when I first got into a marketing job. I just knew that, I don't know, marketing is like a buzzword nowadays, especially in college. You think of marketing now, and it probably you probably think of something fun. Like it feels like something creative. I don't think that was the way I thought about it when I was younger. I got into an entry level job, and then I got offered another position where like the commute was better and the money was better. So I was like, okay, I'll jump into that. I fucking hated it, and I left within like 6 weeks. And then I ran across a job opening that was at a marketing agency. It was very like entry level. It wasn't like I was working on designs or actually running anything like creative whatsoever, but it was in a really fun company that did a lot of fun stuff. And that opened my eyes to what marketing was. I had no experience in marketing prior to that outside of just like organic marketing. And at that point, I still didn't even really know what it was. Like you guys know way more about like the social space at your age than I did when I was 20 years old. I don't know if I cared. I don't know if what I was doing eventually opened my eyes to it. But once I got in that first marketing agency, I was like, this is fun. Like I want to level up in this and figure out like where my space is in this and like what I can do in this, because it's such a cool blend of creativity and analytics. And those are two things that I'm super passionate about. So the first marketing agency, actually, I was doing like what they call media buying. And that's a very basic level entry position at a marketing company. And the company I was working at got bought by another company. Like a big marketing agency came in, they bought the company, and they let go of a lot of people, and they started restructuring how the business was going to work. And all the positions got like moved around. So I was no longer a media buyer. I remember they called me into the office one day, and my boss was like, hey, what do you think about running like social media ads for some of our clients? And at that time, I don't think anyone within the company was doing that. And I was like, fuck yeah, like social media is getting big. It's like, again, another buzzword that can get you excited as a younger person. So I started running these Facebook ads for the clientele was like higher education. So we were running ads for colleges and universities and things like that. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And the people that I worked with at the company weren't doing it either. So they didn't know what the fuck they were doing either. So they let me throw around a bunch of money. And I eventually moved from that agency, which was in New Jersey, to a one in Manhattan. And that's where I started kind of like honing my skills and learning a lot more about marketing agencies that work with bigger clientele, like Fortune 500. And I started running campaigns within that agency for like Twitter, Facebook, and those kind of social platforms. And that's where I started to get a little bit more confidence in my actual technical skills. And I was like, yo, this is like really, really cool shit. Like this is how you build a business. This is marketing nowadays. And at that time, I had simultaneously been building up my YouTube channel. So I was starting to learn a little bit more about the organic side of things, while also getting a glimpse into the paid side of things, which is the portion of business that most people coming from where you're coming from and where I was coming from don't get a glimpse into that. So they don't, it's very helpful to understand how big companies operate on a paid traffic budget as compared to organic. Like organic is great, but if you can't depend on that, you have to start pivoting towards paid. So I got a cool blend of both of them, and it just started opening my eyes to all different types of marketing. And by that time, I was fucking hooked.
Okay, so do you think, obviously you're not at the companies anymore. Do you think that's something that like they fully use? Like I think I don't know. It's hard to gauge because there's so much advertisements everywhere with everything. It's hard to gauge really like what actually works. And obviously you'd have more of an insight in that. So do you think that's something that companies should work on even more now, especially because I was 6 years ago when you were doing that? Do you still think that's like a lack of a company, you could say, for some companies?
Yeah, I think, I mean, back then I saw it, like the return on ad spends. I was like, why is nobody seeing seeing what I'm looking at? Like, we're looking at the same shit and you can't see that the results are right there. Like, Facebook advertising nets you 3 to 4 times in revenue what fucking programmatic banner, like the fucking ads that pop up on a website that no one, like, we're programmed as humans not to even see those fucking pop-up ads on the side. You know what I mean? So with like Facebook and with these new types of advertising, it unlocked a whole level of targeting within marketing that was unheard of at the time. Like, within the reason Facebook is made of so much money, is worth so much money, is because they have everyone's information. And when you have that information and you let advertisers use it, you can target literally, like with a banner ad, you could only be like, I want to put it on sports websites, right? And that was it. Like, you just threw it out there and hope that it resonated with someone. With Facebook targeting, Instagram targeting, you could literally be like, I only want to show this ad on Instagram to 22 to 25-year-olds that live in fucking Ohio, that are Ohio State fans, that drive a Mazda. And they know this because Facebook is partnered with every company in the fucking world. And that's why they've had so many privacy issues, because they have so much information about. So it becomes so targeted. And the fact that like companies couldn't understand that back then was a glaring hole. And the other problem is, with big companies, you tend to move extremely slowly. You have to go through all these fucking loopholes. You have to go through the managers, and even like entry level like myself, if I'm putting an opinion out there when we're getting a $2 million budget for the quarter, like, I have 6 managers above me that would not even bat an eye at the things I'm saying. So within like corporate America right now, the structure of a lot of things is just completely fucked up. So yeah, they miss out on a lot of it. And that's why it's fun being a small brand, because I could wake up tomorrow and be like, all right, fuck it, we're putting half our budget into Instagram marketing tomorrow. We're going to stop doing fucking Twitter. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these like one-off niche brands starting to win and chop into the monopoly that big companies were.
Yeah, I totally agree. I started my internship this summer, like my first real job, you could say, and I definitely see, and I'm a part of like the process of, it's just a lot like whenever I have an idea, just like you said, like boom, I can do it. But now it's like you have to get this verification, stuff like that. So I think that's definitely, that's huge room for improvement, I think. And the whole pop-up banners, like I have ad blocker on every single thing I possibly can because it just wastes time, and I never use those. I don't really know what the return on that would be for sure. Big waste of time.
If you're advertising, I mean, whether it's, the way I look at it is like, if you're going to advertise, if you're going to put money into it or organic, if what you're doing doesn't give value to the customer, if it only pisses them off, then you're doing it wrong. Like everything you do, see, if you're going to run a paid advertisement, like if I'm going to run Instagram ads, it better be a good fucking video in which the person watches it and is like, yo, that was cool. That was information I didn't know. It shouldn't be something like popping in your face, hoping that they accidentally click the fucking ad because their fingers are too fat. You know what I mean? Like, America was thinking backwards for a while. And now we're seeing the people who are good at giving value straight to you are the ones who are winning in business.
For sure. So then, that was about like obviously you coming into your marketing degree, and then you said that you were kind of doubling up, obviously with the marketing and with Big Dogs, the YouTube channel. So kind of when you touched on when you sort of switched full time, but what details kind of made you think I might need to switch? Was it people's influence? Was it lack of people's influence? Stuff like that.
It was weird. It was like when I was at that last job I had. It was cool. Like, I enjoyed what we were doing, but I didn't want to do it for anyone else anymore. It was like a long process, I guess, to get to the feeling that I had. Like, I got to a point where I was just like, dude, I can't do this day in and day out. Like, I'm not happy investing so much. You know, when you work full time, especially, that's another reason why like college kids right out of school, their lives change fucking dramatically, because you put I think people underestimate just how much time you put into a fucking full-time working job. It's your entire day. You have to base your life around that job. And I got to a point where after a couple of years, I was like, I'm not happy with this. And I've been working hard enough to know that if I did put my energy elsewhere, I think good things would happen. And if not, like I'm smart enough to be able to get back into a marketing job in a year if it doesn't work out. So I got to a point where I was at my last job where I was like, I fucking hate this. Like, I can't go on doing this, or something like bad is going to happen. I don't know what would have happened, but like there was a suffocation inside of me that was like, Nick, you have to try it out on your own. So it wasn't necessarily one thing or another. It was just something inside of me telling me like, you got to get out of here, you know?
And you don't have to go into like super detail if you don't want to, but like I know you've mentioned it on your vlogs and stuff before, but was I guess you could say, support there, or was it at the time, like, because even now I think it's like weird for people to like do what you're doing. It's not like, how do you do that and survive type thing. So back then, I'm assuming, was it worse back then, you think, or how did that sort of work out?
It was most people to this day like still have no fucking idea what I'm like. Some of my closest friends wouldn't be able to explain to people what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like only a couple people could probably do that successfully. Back then, I was still living at my mom's house. So I'm not actually sure. Like, I always had support from my friends because they knew who I am now was who I was back then. But to the outside world, if you didn't know me, you didn't know I had this type of drive, or you didn't know I had this type of like experience or privy in marketing, right? That I would get to that spot. So I guess people could have looked outside and been like, oh, he quit his job. He's trying to be like an entrepreneur and he's living at his mom's house. So I'm sure there were some voices like that and people like that. But overwhelmingly, yeah, it was pretty positive in terms of like the feedback I got from people. Like, my friends were always like, yo, this is really fucking dope what you're doing. My mom was always like, I support you as long as you're happy, be smart. And she just, had confidence in me. So I would say it's gotten to a point now where I'm just like, I don't even like know how to explain what I do anymore, to be honest. Like, I can't say, I'm definitely will never introduce myself as like an influencer. I even feel weird saying like a business owner. I still say something like, yeah, I have, I'm in marketing, or like, have you ever played fantasy football? I have like a podcast around fantasy football. And then if they're interested in knowing more, then I can kind of break it down. But it's definitely it's still a weird thing for me. It's definitely still a weird thing for me. I think people have obviously seen that I've had a little bit of success. So if there was any like weird feelings in the beginning about me doing it, then I'm sure they've like, okay, like whatever he's doing is working, but I still don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not a dinner table topic, I think. And you've mentioned that before, I think in a couple of your vlogs about your grandparent. Like the last one, we don't have to like go into, but you're like, my grandpa can't do my taxes because like he doesn't know what to do type things. So stuff like that's definitely, it's real. It definitely is real, especially when you openly admit it, and you're that big, for sure. So obviously you went full time and you were growing the channel. Kind of when was because then you moved into an apartment and the new HQ. When did you like see that like this was big? This was like growing into where I can move out, I can hire people, I can do all these things. Kind of how did that sort of play out?
Well, so I'd moved out of Jersey into Brooklyn last year, and that was like my first like real leap where I was like, okay, financially I have to make this work if I want to continue to live the way that I want to live. That like click button in my head went off probably like midway through last summer. Like, I knew we were going to do well and we had grown year over year, but I hadn't really been looking at my taxes or my accounting stuff, right? Like, I keep pretty close eye on income and expenses and things like that. And there was like a point in the summer, I think maybe in like June or July, and I'd projected. I remember I did a video where I was doing projections for the following year, and I was like, like best case scenario, we hit like 80,000. And when you're like 23 or 24, you're like, holy shit, that's a big fucking salary, right? Like, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. So I put that as the max projection, and I was like, yeah, it'd be amazing if we hit that. I thought that would be like the coolest thing ever. And I'm looking at my accounting thing and I'm like, yo, this like can't be right, because my income had added up to over 100. Like, I hit 100K like midway through the summer. And I was like, holy shit, like we're really doing it. You know what I mean? Like, this is really happening right now. And things just kept going really well. And we hit our stride throughout the summer, and sales kept coming in, and we ended up doing a lot of business last year. And for the first time I was like, yeah, like this is, it's no longer like livable money. It's money where you need to be doing something with it. You need to start investing back into it. So but last summer was probably like the real, the gears in my head turning, like, okay, I always knew I would get to this point. Maybe I didn't think it would be this early.
Yeah, it was very, I mean, I guess for people listening, I don't want to say manage your YouTube and podcast, but like I can see the numbers too. I don't like stock them or anything, but like I could see the views and I could see the growth, and it was definitely very like snap your fingers and it just shot up. And I think just a credit to the hard work that you've put in, for sure, has definitely reflected that. So as it was growing, we can talk about as many sponsors as you're allowed to talk about. Kind of how did that sort of dynamic play out in terms of, did they come out to you? Did you reach out to them? Sort of, because that applies to all businesses, kind of sponsorships and affiliates and stuff. So how did that sort of start? Maybe your first one up until now. How did that play out?
I think the first sponsor we ever had was the company Fantasy Jocks, who I wrote their blog section for their website for a while as I was just starting to get into like fantasy content. And then when I left the job, I put a vlog out saying that like I'm going to do Facebook and Instagram marketing as like a freelance marketer, and do fantasy stuff on the side. And the guy who owns Fantasy Jocks reached out to me and he was like, "Oh, I watch your vlogs. Like, we've been working together for a while. I'd love to give you a chance to run the campaign for us." So I was running their Instagram and Facebook ads. That was my first client marketing wise. And then we kind of did like a dual contract where it was like, okay, you'll sponsor my videos and I'll run this, and it'll be like X number of dollars. So that was like the first real one I think I ever had. And then since then, I mean, I've gotten reached out to by a lot of companies, obviously. Most of them, 95% of them are not like good fits, or they're looking to completely, like, they see a content creator and you don't assume that someone comes from like a marketing background. So you kind of just throw out like a shit number. And if that's the case, I'm always like, okay, they're probably not worth even talking to. The other partnerships, I've been pretty tight knit with the people that I work with. It needs to be something that I think is extremely valuable to the audience. It needs to be something that's extremely natural. So like last summer we worked with Team Stake. That's like the buy-in platform, because that was something, I'm a commissioner of a lot of leagues. And I'm like, dude, collecting money, Venmo, PayPal, cash between 4 different leagues, between people that live everywhere in different platforms, I'm like, it's a fucking nightmare. I was like, okay, Team Stake. I want to say I reached out to Team Stake initially, and then we got discussions going on the sponsorship. I was like, yo, like, there are a lot of people that have the same problem as me, and I could pitch this to my audience because I'm feeling the same fucking pain that they would feel when I pitch it. So that was a natural fit. And then was partnered with most of them. Either they reached out and they're like, we saw your YouTube video, we think we could work together, or I'll go out of my way because I do think it's a natural fit, and I'll shoot them an email that's like very broken down, like, this is the value I can offer to you, this is what I would like to see in return. I'm open for negotiations, but like, let's get on a call to discuss further. So if you have any specific in mind, I can go into detail, but otherwise I'll end up sitting here for like forever, and breaking down 10 different companies,
Yeah, I think the big one, the one I wanted to touch on the most, was Player Profiler, because I think that was like, that showed that your growth was so big that it hit that landmark to me. Because like I mean, I know I texted you and I think you put a picture on a vlog or something. I was like, holy cow, like what is this? Like it's huge type thing. So kind of give as much details as you want. Sort of how Player Profiler, if people don't know, it's a website that mainly stores data, but it's kind of like you in a sense that it has a YouTube channel, podcast, marketing stuff here and there. So kind of, if you want to break down that partnership, if you want.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, they're a legit brand, and that's one of the things I really admire about Player Profiler. Matt emailed me one day, just like out of the blue. I'd never spoken to him or had any conversations with him, and he emailed me, and I was like, yo, this is fucking cool. I think this was actually, I remember doing a vlog, and I remember being back at my mom's house. So I don't remember. It must have been when I was just back there for a week filming Fade the Public or some shit. But this was, I guess this was like a year ago or so. And he had reached out to me about the upcoming summer. He's like, yeah, I stumbled upon your YouTube channel, and I feel like you're like a perfect fit for what we're trying to do here. Let's get on a call and like discuss how we could work together. And Matt is one of like the few podcasters that not that I really respect, because I respect all the hard work that goes into the industry that we have, but like one of the guys who, when he talks, I pay attention to, you know what I mean? Like I really enjoy his takes on fantasy. He's made me think about the game in a different way and made me like a better analyst, I think. So when he reached out to me, like, just like you, I was like, yo, this is cool as shit. Like, this is a guy that I really admire. This is a brand that I really admire. So we exchanged emails. We got on a call, and he wanted to do just like a typical ad read kind of throughout the course of the season. So we actually have a call. I'm getting on a call with Matt tomorrow morning. It's Thursday, Friday morning at like 10 or 11 a.m. to discuss the campaign. We're kicking off on July 1st. So he just wanted a very natural ad read or a very natural plug from Player Profiler, some of the advanced analytics, because the way he saw my channel was like, I'm a very good bridge gap between he put it, the drive-by fantasy player, which is true because I gain a lot of exposure that week or two leading up to season-long drafts into his advanced analytics stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so he thinks he has a little bit of a tough time reaching like the very basic fantasy audience, and he thinks that I can bridge the gap for him in doing so. And it was completely fucking natural, obviously, because way prior to him even reaching out, I had been using Player Profiler in my analysis and plugging it in my videos for like a year or two prior. So that's another perfectly natural fit. And we got something on the books, and I'll be doing sponsoring, or he'll be sponsoring my videos from now through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think I found it through you using it, because when I first started watching, I didn't know what half these websites were, where to find numbers and stuff now. And I use it here and there too. And I think it's definitely, like I said, a landmark to even grow more, because I think this will lead to the next Player Profiler type ad read, if you will, or affiliate. So definitely has been huge, or will be huge. I guess it hasn't started yet for you guys, for sure.
It's interesting. Sorry to cut you off, but it's interesting, like having I think this is a testament to Matt too. Like most businesses in our space probably wouldn't want to pay a competitor. You know what I mean? Like
sure, yeah.
He's very forward thinking in how he sees his business operating, and throwing money into videos like mine, there's no guarantee of like, we're not doing this on a cost per acquisition basis. Like he's not expecting me to bring in 10 new members each week with my videos. He's just like, I believe what you're doing. I believe it's a good gap between what I'm doing and where the audience I want to be is. So credit to him for like looking long-term, and credit to him for being willing to advertise within our own space. You know what I mean? Because a lot of companies would be like, no, we can't give money to a competitor because it's all already like very competitive within our space, trying to get audience and things like that. So
yeah, and I think the competitor thing is good too, because I don't want to like compare YouTube channels, but like I guess from what I remember, I'm pretty sure you're far ahead of him in terms of like your audience on YouTube, and it's just not a thing that he really does. In it, normally, if you're thinking business, you're like, well, why doesn't he just start his own YouTube if he's that big? But he's smart enough to like see, like you just said, that, or I can just give him the opportunity to do that for me, and I don't have to worry about doing that work. So yeah, I definitely agree that I know I texted you after, and I was like, I did not think he was actually this business oriented, because he came from a tech startup background or something like that I definitely would not expect just by listening to his podcast and following him on Twitter and stuff. Is not the background I would peg him for. So yeah, he definitely has done a good job with that for sure. Another sort of sponsor or affiliate, and I'll probably have you break it down, is the Draft Kit. If I remember right, last year it kind of had a sponsor attached to it, but this year it's full on Monkey Knife Fight, and you were tied together in this Draft Kit. So maybe if you want to sort of break down leading up to that, maybe how that kind of plays out, if you want.
Yeah, I don't think. I'm trying to remember. I don't think we had a sponsor for last year's draft guide. For Monkey Knife Fight this year, yeah, we were working together during the season, the 2019 football season, and they had interest in sponsoring the draft guide. And when they first brought the idea up, which was like right after the season, I had turned it down immediately, because I actually didn't know what the fuck they meant by sponsoring the draft guide. I thought they meant like, post their images and shit all over and links all over the draft guide. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I want the draft guide to be like unadulterated and just completely value. You know what I mean? So I turned it down, and then we eventually met up in person, and the rep there, Zach, explained to me what he actually meant by it. And I actually broke this down in this week's Q&A video. I think it was basically the way they wanted to do it was put an incentive behind the audience to sign up for their platform in order to get my draft guide. So there's basically three facets to it. It's the fact that the audience gets to purchase the draft guide for a very cheap amount, right? Like normally we'll sell it for between $30 and $50. But if they go sign up on Monkey Knife Fight and use my promo code, they'll get both of the draft guides, normally a $50 value, for $10. Plus they'll get $20 to play with on Monkey Knife Fight. So really, you hear all this shit like, oh, $70 value for $10. Like it's legitimately a $70 value for $10. So it felt good being able to get that out to the audience. And then my turn, they give me a kickback that is higher than I would normally make from somebody buying the draft guide in itself. So it's a win for the audience. It's a win for me. And then they clearly know how much a customer is worth to them, right? So this is, again, a long-term play for them. You're expecting that, let's say, just for instance, like the average DraftKings player puts in $500 in their account over the course of the year. And I don't even think that's really outrageous for the average DraftKings player, because, week in and week out, maybe you'll throw 50 in here, you'll throw another 100 in here, whatever. So you're looking at it and saying like, okay, up front, if they want to give me $60 or whatever the number is for each member sign up, you're like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. But they're making way more on the back end of it. So it's a win-win-win all around, realistically. And I was like, okay, this is a good offer. The tough thing has been with a site like Monkey Knife Fight, they have a lot of legal barriers that you kind of have to jump. Like, one, you can't be under 18 years old. And not that that was like a big portion of my audience buying the draft guide, but there's no international people. And I was looking back at some of the numbers from the draft guide purchasers last year. And that was, I mean, not a huge amount, but I would say probably between, like, if I remember correctly, 9 and 11% of the purchasers were from like Canada or international. So that wipes out them, that wipes out the 18-year-olds, and then it wipes out a huge portion of the people that just aren't eligible to play within the Monkey Knife Fight states. So before you know it, that wipes out, 35 to 40% of my audience that bought a draft guide last year. So it's been a little bit more difficult because there's a lot of road gaps in between. Like, customers just want to buy the fucking product, right? They don't want to go through the fact that they got to go to another website to do it, and then they got to get an email from me, and they also have to play a game in order to activate. It's like, it's a lot. It's good value, but you also have to factor into the value of the hurdles to get there along the way. So I honestly was a little bit hesitant. But it was just like, the money was good. It's very incentive based as well. So if we do really well, then I'm going to get paid a fuckload of money, which obviously I'm not really going to turn down at this point. But as it scales, it might be a little bit tougher to continue going down a path where there's a lot of resistance to the customer.
Mm-hmm. And is that, I don't know exactly, was that like the first partner draft guide in the industry, you could say? I'm not really for sure if.
No, like, so they're partnered with a lot of fucking people. I believe they're partnered with Player Profiler for this. They're partnered with Fantasy Pros. And I've heard these deals a lot, actually. Like this last summer and the summer before that, they're like, yeah, if you sign up for, I don't know, like a draft on FFPC, you'll get access to our draft guide or whatever. And I never batted an eye at it. I never was like, oh, that's a good idea for us, because I was already selling the draft guide for like $40 or $50 a piece. Mm-hmm. I'm like, they're not going to give me more than that. You know what I mean? They're going to give me, maybe they'll match it. And then that just is an extra hurdle for the customer. So it's a net negative in that sense, right? But when Monkey Knife Fight came to me, like, the offer was too good financially for me to be like, okay, let's weigh out the pros and cons here. So yeah, this has been something that's been in the industry for a while. This was the first time anyone has come to me about sponsoring the draft guide, and it's the first time I've personally done it.
Mm-hmm. And if anyone listening in Iowa, we cannot play Monkey Knife Fight. So there's the negative there for sure. And we just got sponsored by not sponsored by Draft. There's a Drafter link, and I can't even play it or anything. So I just have to sit on the Zoom call on the other end and watch them draft, or we do a video or something. So yeah, hopefully I don't know when they're going to fix that. I don't even really care that much to understand when they're going to fix that at all.
Yeah, the tough thing is, like, it's nothing they can really do. It's like the law. And you want to talk about businesses moving slow in marketing? I mean, it's the fucking government, like, ruling the country. Like, how slow are they going to move with this stuff? And I had the guy Alex, who is co-owner of the FFPC, who runs like paid leagues on his website and he was talking to me about how expensive it is to just, like, I was looking at it as like a video game thing. He's like, oh, to unlock a new state, you have to pay all of these regulations and taxes and things like that. I'm like, it's a crazy, crazy industry. I couldn't imagine fucking wanting to run like a paid service for fantasy in there. So just so many hurdles to get through.
Yeah, it would not be good. So keeping on the topic of right now with the brand. So you moved into the new HQ, the big HQ. So if anyone watched his videos, 3 parts, I guess: your bedroom, and then the middle HQ, if you want to call it that, and then obviously the new one. So obviously the new HQ was planned on being not just you on the inside, and then the world started to end in the spring, and we'll see how that goes. But we can kind of talk about the big plans that you had. So I think the starting of sort of your hiring, we can say, was on Twitter. It's Mike Me Up, but Mike Liu, you probably know it better than I do. But
Michael Liu, yeah,
you kind of hired him, I guess you could say, and you've known him prior to that, obviously. But then you kind of broke it down even more, and you had interns you put out there, and there was a lot of traction. A couple of guys we do podcasts with were like, you should ask him when he's going to release them. You should ask when he's going to release them. So there's definitely a lot of traction on that. And then now you kind of, like, just now you kind of have 3 brands, you could say, inside your one brand. So we can start back with Mike, and you can praise him up if you want, and kind of how that hiring started.
Yeah, I mean, one of the tough things to figure out in our space is, since we're so seasonal, like, what are you going to do in the off season? And it feels like we've been fucking hand gifted this whole dynasty thing. You know what I mean? Like this is a way for us to continue to keep people engaged, continue to get invested into our brand, and continue to long game, you know, purchase whatever products or services we put out as a business. So this seemed like it was like, okay, we can't just not attack dynasty, you know, at a very, very high rate. So I was like, this offseason, let's fucking get Noah on camera. Let's get Mike on camera. And Mike was a very early subscriber of mine on YouTube, and he was always in the comment section. And then when I opened up the live draft weekends in New York, he was there for the first one, and then he came again for the second one. And we just became friends. Like we developed a friendship through that. And we met up in New Orleans for the NCAA championship game last year with me, him, and Snacks. And we developed a friendship, and we had played. He was in the first ever dynasty league that I actually played in. I started between my subscribers. He was in it, and he just fucking ran train on everybody. He's currently the 2-time defending champ, probably going for the 3rd time this year. And he knew way more about dynasty than I did at the time. And I was like, I need to learn more about dynasty, because I don't feel comfortable like preaching it to my audience when I've never played it. And if I have played it, I wasn't good at it. But Mike, on the other hand, super fucking analytical, big math guy, understands the stocks and markets and all that kind of shit, right? And I was like, and I've also seen him be good at the sport. I've seen him be good in dynasty football. So I was like, yo, like, you're passionate about this. And he started growing his own following on Twitter before I even brought him on. I think he got up to like 2,000 or 3,000 followers on Twitter. And I was like, yo, just come on the videos with us and let me help you grow your brand. And you could do like the dynasty content here and be known as like, you know, kind of like an expert in the realm on that side of things. So I put them two together, and I realized that like I'm not going to be able to do 5 long form videos a week. So this was a way that I can put this on their plate and not have to worry about all the bullshit that goes on behind the scenes, right? Because all that stuff adds up. The video editing, the YouTube thumbnails, the descriptions in the videos, putting it on a podcast, whatever. All that stuff adds up. And this was a way for me to continue to get a really good piece of long form content out, but not put that other shit back on the plate. So they just kind of tell me time and place, what's the content topic, and I'm usually ready to go from my prep from other videos and things like that. So Mike came on as a dynasty guy, and he's been, you know, they're like 20 or 20 something episodes in. And what else were we touching on here?
The interns next, but they started, well, you started, or they started a branch of the Big Dogs channel in their own channel, which is Bunk Bed Breakdowns. So that like just started, so that we don't really know the context of that. If you go on there, there's not going to be a bunch of 20 videos, so don't expect 20 videos right now if you go on their YouTube channel. Yeah, I think the thing with him is, and I think it's good for the brand, and like he was a good fit. I think people respect him. I think that's the main thing. I think that you see that. I mean, because anyone can say anything on Twitter, and I like Twitter, but I also hate Twitter because it's a bunch of random crap all the time. But I think you see when people really know what they're talking about, when people have the experience, when people like actually take the time to not just respond to a bunch of tweets and vote on a bunch of polls and all this stuff, but like actually put out stuff that people care about. And I definitely think that he did before, and then I think even more so now that he knows that people care about his work, you can definitely see that he's taking it a lot more serious. And then him and Noah, I think, are a good pairing, just for the show in general. But I think in reality, they could do any type of show they wanted to. I think it's definitely a good pairing. And then now they have their own channel, which so you said they're going to be posting more than the one a week. Is it going to be like a 5-time a week thing, or kind of how is that going to work?
It's going to be up to them. They're going to take that as far as they want to go. It's still very much under the Big Dogs umbrella, of course, but what I wanted to do was open up like more flexibility for what they would like to put out. Because there are things that I want on my channel, because at the end of the day, it's my channel and it's my brand. And I'm like, okay, I can sit here, acknowledge and realize that you're really good at doing this. Doesn't make me want to put it on my channel anymore. And in that sense, that's holding them back, right? Like, I don't want to be the person that holds them back from eventually doing what they want to do. So I was like, this is a way for you to continue, one, helping Big Dogs build, but you guys work really fucking hard. So I think it's worth you having your creative flexibility. Like if they want to put out fucking 10 long form videos a week, they don't have to come through me. That's the thing. Like, I'm no longer the weak link in their content production game. Like, they don't have to be like, Nick, can we post this? Because they did a lot of like really good one-off rookie videos by themselves this summer that I didn't even ask them to do. And they're like, can we post on YouTube? And I'm like, honestly, like, no, I don't want that on YouTube, because I don't want 200 videos a week going out and no one's going to have any idea what the fuck's going on with my channel anymore. Like, I know the vision that I want for my brand. And this is a way where they can put whatever they want on their channel, right? And it's going to be good content. I try, like with Mike, like, you know, he's someone that I actually trust with. I don't find many dudes that I'm like, okay, like, cool, you play fantasy, you're serious about it, but like anyone could just be a writer. Like Mike, I actually trust with his opinion. So that's why I'm like, I don't really care if the audience knows whether or not Mike knows his stuff, because I know long-term that's going to work itself out because he does know his shit.
I totally agree. I think that, and I don't want to say the track record of his wins proves it, but I think the mentioning of his track records, Animal says it. Animal's always mad that he takes his guy and drafts and snacks up. I think it just people admit it, and I think they know for sure that he is solid. We can lead into the interns now. So I'll just let you break it down. So you opened up 2 intern or 3 intern positions, not for sure. Kind of what was the idea behind that?
So we wanted to probably bring on 1 intern. It's actually been a lot of craziness over the last month or 2 with the interns. I originally wanted someone that can just do a lot of like extra help on the side, but more importantly, like capture what was going on with the brand here. Someone who was going to have a fucking camera in hand at all times to capture the shit that I just like, I'm not going to capture, or the stuff that like Snacks is not going to pick up a fucking camera and start videotaping stuff. Right. So I wanted someone that just has good feel for being able to capture the personality of a brand. When I opened up the applications, I got a lot of like good people applying for it. And like, it got to the point where when we narrowed it down, I was like, oh, we could probably use this person and probably use this person. And we had a 3rd intern who wasn't even through the application process, but a friend of mine introduced me to him, and he's young, he's your age, but he's really fucking good at video work. And I was like, oh, like I could definitely use him. He's like, he's not Scott level, but he's like, give him 5 years and he probably will be there. So I was like, okay, might as well work with this kid now. So it got to him, and then it was Luca, and it was Jack. And then all the shit broke loose where Corona like wouldn't let anyone come to the headquarters, and it just got messy because I imagined the summer being like everyone here, we're documenting, we're creating, and then it put like a tough something tough in the middle of that, where it's like even like Snacks and Animal, you know, they're here, they come now, but like for that month and a half period, it's like they couldn't use public transportation. They weren't going to drive in here because it was so like something you just didn't do at the time, which threw a wrench into the interns. And now I'm like, if we can't really like do up the way we were going to do the headquarters in terms of our own core BDGE team, then maybe there's not a use of the interns altogether. You know what I mean? Like I expected to ramp this up really quickly, and then a wrench got thrown into the plan. So Jack won't be coming for the summer. He ended up moving back from Clemson up to like New Hampshire, and things just got in the way with the corona, and you know, plans got fucked up. Luca is in New Jersey right now. He started an internship with FanDuel, so he could still like work with us, but I'm just like, the schedule is kind of fucked up, and I'm just like, if people aren't here, I don't really know how I'm going to use you in a sense, you know, because at the very core, it was like the purpose was to have someone videotaping and recording. And then I saw their talents, and I was like, oh, we could probably I probably got ahead of myself, to be honest. Like, we could probably use you for this, but we probably didn't need like full-time interns doing half the shit that he did and half the shit that he did. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it's just I think it's tough because it's an industry where like interns really aren't a thing. Like, they're not like, you don't think I'm a fantasy football intern or whatever the case may be. So it's hard to like narrow down exactly what they could do, because in reality, most of it is just you putting out the videos, Scott editing the videos, but it's really just like your channel. So yeah, I think it was good. Obviously, Corona pending, but I think that it was all lining up to just help the growth. But obviously now, not that you're not going to grow, but it's just obviously not going to happen probably the way that you wanted it to. But still, I think it showed. I think it just showed viewers that like you were wanting to, I don't want to say be more involved, but you were just wanting to be more creative with it and open up new opportunities. And I know we can kind of lead into this next. You had ideas in your past vlogs about opening up a creation studio of some sort, or a marketing creation studio.
Right.
Is that might be on the back burner type thing, or is that still kind of a plan that you have, you want to do soon, or how is, maybe if that's not even a plan, like it's not a plan anymore, but kind of what are your thoughts on that now?
Yeah, I mean, this is really the beta version of that. This is like the first try of that, but I think the important thing here is like, yeah, like, so I want to open up a creative space, and I want to open up a place where people can come, you know, a lot of people can come and they can work on whatever it is that they're working on, whether it's video or podcast or writing or artwork or whatever the fuck you want to do. I want to provide a space for people to do that and like feel comfortable doing that. In terms of like plans and goals, I'm not going to put a timetable on it, because something like that I feel like needs to happen extremely naturally. Like I can't just be like, okay, like the fucking creative studio is open, and it just needs to be something that I know I can't push and I can't rush. It needs to happen, right? If I had to put a realistic timetable on it, it probably won't happen for like 7 to 10 years, but that's like what I imagine happening, when I'm older and when I'm starting to pivot off of whatever we're doing now, like fantasy football stuff. So the creative space is absolutely still like my long-term end game goal. But it's very, very, very far off. And it's not something that I'm going to be like actively pushing in terms of invest. I imagine everything we're doing here will like naturally push itself to become what the studio is one day,
Yeah, I think that like it'll just naturally go. I think that's just kind of the way that you think in terms of marketing, in terms of the way you approach, I'm just going to say content, but really anything in general. I think it'll definitely just eventually reach that. Before we move on to even more in the future, we didn't even mention Snacks and Animals. So Snacks and Animal, Animal was on the show. Yeah. Yeah. Animal was on the show last year, and then Snacks will be on tomorrow and Wednesday when you're listening to this. We're just doing some football talk in general, but they are a part of the Big Dogs. Maybe they're just like friends of the Big Dogs. I don't really know the dynamic. But they are on Fade the Public, year and a half of Fade the Public, maybe 2 years. I'm not for sure when you started it ago. Yeah, 2 years, I think. I don't know. When did
started at the end of not this previous football season, but the season before that. We started like week 11, I want to say, just randomly like jumped into it, week 11 of the NFL season 2018. So whenever that was, we've done one episode a week for that, the entirety of then till up until now.
And that, if you can break it down, is like it's basically it started as a recap of your big money league, your home league that you guys are in, and it's evolved into that, obviously, and kind of, I don't know, that's more. I don't want to say.
Let me ask you this: when you think of Fade the Public, like what? If you had to describe it to somebody or your friends or somebody, like how would you put it?
Yeah, that's a tough. I think to me, and I don't want to like compare it to anything, but I think of like Barstool. I think of ESPN in a way that it's like just a show, because it's obviously about fantasy, but in reality, like probably the pie of percentages of how much fantasy you actually talk in it is probably 50-50 compared to whatever else the topic is. And I think that's definitely a good thing. I think that's definitely attracted an audience separate of your fantasy audience. And I think it's meshed it together. And Max and Animal now are their own, like people refer to them as Max and Animal, or Max and Animal and Snacks. Yeah. And those aren't even like their names. So like, I definitely think that, I guess I would say Barstool, but I don't even know if that's like a comparison to it. I said fun, but I don't even know what that. It's just a different creative aspect of fantasy, maybe a way to look at it. And you guys have done game shows, you've done different segments in it, just stuff like that. So I don't, if that's a good answer. I don't even know really. Well, what do you think if you had to?
I ask because we don't know, and it's a problem that we're facing right now. And we filmed on Tuesday of this week, so 2 days ago, and after the episode, like, I don't want to say I exploded, but I was like, yo, like what we're doing right now. I love the last 2 episodes we did with the Dynasty Startup. I thought those were really fun and really good. But after this week's episode, it wasn't it. It just wasn't, I didn't feel good about it. And I've walked out of those filmings enough times to know when things are going in the right direction and when they're not. So we like sat down and talked about where we want to go with the future of this, because we're not bunk bed breakdowns. You don't come to us for like the most in-depth fantasy stuff. And when we started, Animal had this picture of like a Pardon My Take type podcast where it was us three just like talking about very overgeneral topics in sports. And I was like, we're not going to do that, because we're not going to be able to compete with like, not obviously we weren't ever thinking of competing with Pardon My Take, but like players who do just sports topics. I'm like, that's not us. I don't feel like that's us. I want to build off of fantasy football because we're already in that space and we can make it fun. But what you realize quickly is that the people that consume fantasy content, they're so programmed to want to consume it for information. You know what I mean? And like myself, if I'm listening to a podcast and it's just like three dudes fucking around, I have zero fucking interest in it. Right. So we're thinking about like, okay, we're not going to be the guys who give the best fantasy football stuff. I originally was like, yo, we can make our home league into almost like a reality show, but that just didn't pan out because we weren't with the other guys for enough time. We didn't have the cameras always on rolling and shit like that. So then a couple of weeks ago when we did our first filming here, we were like, okay, why don't we actually pivot more towards like the dynasty league that we're doing, where the audience knows like the personal brands of people within the league, like myself, Animal Snacks, Scott, Mike, Noah, like people in Big Dogs, like know those dudes. And I'm like, that's kind of what I imagined our E-Town Get Down thing eventually becoming. Like people knew our friends from our home money league. That just didn't turn out. So we were like, okay, that's not what we're going to be doing. And we're, a year and a half, 2 years into this, and we're still trying to figure out what direction we want to go. So this week after we filmed, I was like, dude, we did like a regular mock draft. And I was like, dude, that's just so not us. That type of content is too bland for us to really get into. I was like, yo, people like us hopefully people like the show for our personality and just like the friendship that we fucking yell about at each other. So I was like, okay, maybe we do step back and maybe we go back to what Max was alluding to, Animal was alluding to in the very beginning of being a more general sports topic, because a lot of the times when we do fantasy videos, I felt like I was putting a lot of energy into it. Like I needed to be the entire show in a sense if we wanted to give off information to be the value prop. Whereas like with bunk bed breakdowns, if I need to take a show off, like I have no doubt that Noah and Mike are going to handle their fucking business. And if I'm on the show, like I could take a step back and like sit back in my seat and I know that they're going to come up with a bunch of really good fucking facts. With Animal and this is something as a business owner I've been trying to figure out as we go on, like what ticks Animal and Snacks? Like what gets them going? Where do I need to move the needle in order to feel the same way I do with bunk bed? And it's stuff outside, not outside of fantasy. Like we'll get into that when it's really natural, but we're not going to force fantasy content anymore because that's not us. So we are going to take a step back and look at it from a more overhead view. Now that we've built an audience, I think people within the audience like the personalities more than they like the fantasy stuff. So I'm like, Animal Snacks, you guys throughout the course of the week, think of like 2 or 3 cool things, cool trending topics that are at the top of sports or whatever the fuck you want to talk about. That's what we'll go on because that's where you guys are in your fucking zone,
Yeah, and I think like the one that Animal came on, it was about the start of it was like what the NFL is going to look like, and then there's this Broncos talk, obviously, but like I could tell that that's what he really likes. Obviously, I mean, like everyone likes fantasy, right? Like it's not something that like, oh, I hate fantasy because I like football. Like that's not a thing. People that like football play fantasy. But I think I could just tell with him that like he really enjoyed that, and he probably wished we could have gone longer. And he even right after we recorded, he was like, "We need to do this again."
I remember he texted afterwards. He was like, "Yeah, I really like Lucas. Like that was a really fun show."
And even like Snacks was like, "We should do the 2018 draft, like stuff like that." And I'm like, "Sure." Like that's like the stuff I love too. Like I don't want to say I don't like fantasy, but like I'm a very numbers based. I mean, I'm a business analytics major, so I'm a very numbers based, research based. That's what I like. I like finding patterns and trends. I don't like telling you who to sit and start. And that's kind of like why I wanted to start something like this, like you did with yours. And I think you kind of saw that last year because you had so many outlets with Mike, with Noah, with Animal Snacks. Like you just had the opportunity to do that. So personally, I don't know if you need to figure out what Fade the Public is, because I think that's a show where really only your audience is going to watch that. And it's not like something that like someone's going to click on and be like, oh, I only want to watch this versus the rest of your videos.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, listen, if we're going to, if it's just going to be our core audience watching this, like we're not bringing people in via SEO to watch Fade the Public, we might as well do the shit that we're best at. And it's not fantasy. So maybe it was a lot of me being like, not being in control. Like if we start talking about other topics, I was literally like, yo, bring up topics that I don't know about. So you guys can like head the conversation. And then you guys, while we're on air, like explain it to me like a fucking 5-year-old. I'll come up with thoughts like on the rip and we'll go off of that, because I think audiences would like that too. Like very basic topics that they're really in tune with, you know what I mean? So we can work off each other, and me not being like so on top of their shit, and me not being like, this is what we're going to do. I need to make sure that I'm bringing the most value. Like that was something I needed to kind of take a step back with, and being like, no, like if we're going to do it the same way where I give you guys your own leverage or creative flexibility, then I need to go all in and let you guys do that. Otherwise, like there's going to be some invisible, like, shield there that's forcing us from being like the best that we can.
Yeah, and I think you or they or you, whatever the idea came from for Bagels and Locks, it was a branch of that. It was kind of maybe what you were trying to do, but like
that was 100% them. I told them, like, just sorry to cut you off again, but they were like, yo, we want to do this show, this Bagels and Lock show. And I was like, listen, do whatever the fuck you want to do. I will not be putting an ounce of work in. You guys are more than okay taking my fucking YouTube audience and putting it out there to them, but I will not be uploading it for you. I will not be recording it for you. I will not be editing it for you. So that's absolutely props and credit to them. That's them in their zone. I was like, yo, do that shit. It is fucking, I legitimately watched the first time and I was like cracking the fuck up. I was like, I didn't even know like we were capable of making some type of content like this, but that shit is hilarious and completely on their own. And that's why we kind of, well, probably, I don't know if we're going to get into this, but that's why I wanted to split up the YouTube channels and stuff and give Fade the Public their own thing too, because they have a lot of ideas like that. And Animal always has these ideas where I'm just like, no offense, but I don't want to put a fucking video of you talking about the Broncos for 5 minutes on my channel. So this gives them the creative flexibility to do shit like that.
Yeah. And I think like for me personally, I could care less what they said about the teams. I care less the actual analysis behind it. It was just, it was exciting to watch. I think people like, I mean, there was engagement with people sending in pics, people not listening. It was doesn't know what it is. It was a sports betting, NFL betting show. They would just give picks, but it was more so about the rivalry they had going on. Them just literally yelling at each other like you're stupid the whole time. And like it was just, yeah, I think it was definitely what they needed to do, because I think, I mean, I don't want to count Twitter followers as like their fan base, but like you saw they're tweeting now more. They're actually like engaging with people. And I think that was definitely something that obviously Fade the Public helped, but I think once they did that, like that was a whole separate thing. And yeah, tying that into Bunk Bed Breakdowns and Fade the Public, I think that's something that should come out of making different channels and tying in direct fan, because some people might only watch the Bunk Bed Breakdowns on your show. So now they might feel better if they have a direct access to Bunk Bed Breakdowns YouTube channel and not Nick Ercolano's YouTube channel, and have to not go through you, but it's a different feeling, I think, for people when they have that direct correlation. So I definitely think that was good for them, and we'll see where it takes them. I'll have to send you the clip after this. I mentioned it in Snacks yesterday, and he had a clip just calling out animals. So I was going to clip it and send it to Scott for videos. It was hilarious. Definitely Snacks in his prime for sure.
Yeah. The other thing too is like, I don't want this to come off in the wrong way, because I put this upon them, is like they are riding on the fact that they were a part of my YouTube channel, right? Their growth doesn't come without being on my thing. So this is almost like when your parents kick you out of the house and they're like, you gotta figure it out, right? You gotta be financially secure on your own. We're not going to help you take care of you anymore, is what I'm hoping to eventually push towards in the future. So giving them their own channel and stuff, it's cool, but it also means that you're going to have to work a lot harder if you want to, do these types of things. Like you're not going to get 35,000 subscribers because I have them. Like you are going to get a very small fraction of it, and you're only going to build up your own shit if you put the work behind it. So it's a little bit of a learning lesson for them, but I'm sure they'll pick it up quickly.
Yeah, I hope so too, because they definitely, I don't want to say deserve to have their own channel, but they definitely deserve to want to put in that work to grow their brand.
Right. They deserve the chance to at least, attempt to
have the opportunity. Yeah, for sure. So we can go into the future of Big Dogs, if you will. We already talked about the creative studio, kind of the plan with the other channels. So besides losing to me in the staff league, what else is in plan for the Big Dogs? You got the bar stools in the background. It was a huge move for you on, I think, Instagram. I saw it or something. But besides that, really, because obviously stuff changed in a matter of a week for the whole world. So was there kind of a redirect of a strategy maybe, or kind of how did you have to modify, if you did modify, the plan for this upcoming season?
Still kind of ongoing. The chairs are fucking beautiful. You'll see them in our Fade the Public episode, which comes out tomorrow, or whenever you put this out. It comes out the Friday.
Yeah, I remember.
So we use them for the first time, and they're comfortable and they're fun and they're fucking awesome. But that's about the extent of the plans that we have. I think it's a really tough spot. I'm not sure how this will play itself out given the state of, I legit still think like we're about to see a huge spike back up in COVID in New York, because I've seen what's going on around my apartment, and it's just a million people outside acting like it's, COVID is gone. So I'm also kind of planning for that to happen. So it might be a year of just like working on really good content again and not being able to put the headquarters into use, which is a huge fucking L for us because it's a lot of money that I've invested into this. And maybe this makes me look at it a little differently. Maybe like, you know, I could have legitimately fucking hired a full-time editor probably rather than having this studio. So the economy, like, although we probably will grow and still make good money this year, like the economy has affected everybody, you know, in one way or another. It's not like right out putting me out of business or anything, but it trickles into everything. So it's without understanding where the economy is going to be over the next couple months, it's a little tough to plan. But I know for sure I will be planning on the side of caution, and I will stop fucking ordering DoorDash like 4 nights a week. I will stop doing a lot of things where money kind of goes to waste, and that was not the way I looked at it when I first moved in here. So things have gotten a little bit hectic. I think it was probably like a wake-up call for me, probably a little bit of a lesson learned, and I think over the long term it'll be good as a financial lesson to myself. So we're going to continue to put out the best content we possibly can, and kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think in reality, I think the way I look at it is like everyone, like you just said, everyone is affected by it. Obviously, it's not every fantasy analyst moved into a new HQ in terms of collaborating, but they had something happen to them, and so did some of the other person. So I definitely think, yes, it will hurt, but I think it will definitely, I don't want to say even itself out, but I think your audience sees that the work you put in, the 19 million tabs that you put on your Twitter or something this morning, like Debo Samuel thing. I was like, Jesus, like how do you even keep, like I had like 3 open at a time and I could not do that whatsoever.
I didn't even realize, I didn't know I even had tabs in the video, to be honest.
Or I don't even know. I saw them on a picture or video, but yeah, I think people definitely see the uniqueness of the content in itself and then the hard work that's put into it, for sure. That's about all I have, unless you have any other big announcements. I didn't have any questions. I could have thought of some fun questions for you.
You know, I'm not about the fun. You know, I'm all fucking strict business over here.
You're all business for sure. So I'll just let you plug whatever you want here. All your links will be down below and all that stuff. And YouTube, all the different YouTubes, podcasts, all that stuff. So if you want to talk about anything to plug or big plans or anything like that you want the listeners to go view, here's your chance.
No, I mean, I had a lot of fun actually coming on today. I echo what Snacks and Animal said. Lucas, you're a good dude. And for those of y'all out there that don't know, Lucas has helped me out behind Big Dogs for a long time. You've been helping me out for what, like 1.5 years, 2 years now?
Yeah, probably 1.5 years. It was the full year last year. And then I remember last summer, it was kind of like I said, the big growth, because it was kind of like I was doing the email list. I was doing that. I don't like, it wasn't like a ton of work by any means, but like it was definitely like you were not at where you were today. Because I mean, I remember you just add people in the Slack and I'm like, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Stuff like that. So I definitely think 1.5 years, but it's definitely, I've been there. I've seen the growth, and for sure.
Yeah, we're growing a lot deeper than we are wider. And that will always be my philosophy. And that is the way I think everybody should try to grow their stuff. As for plugging, I mean, you guys will find it in the description if you want to find me. That's my name right there. I think Zoom has it up there.
Yeah,
so
down
if you want to
below,
Google that, you'll find it. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, man. I had a lot of fun coming up here and just talking some stuff that's not fantasy football related, as I always tend to have a lot more fun doing that stuff. I'm looking forward to the videos with Animal and Snacks. So send me over those links on Twitter, depending on if they're up or when they're up. So yeah, I mean, I just had a really good time. So thank you for having me, and audience members out there, thank you for listening.
Absolutely. We will, Snacks will be on tomorrow and Thursday, and then I'll be back again next Tuesday. Thank you, Nick, for coming on, and we'll see you guys next time.